Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the new Sandling Junction. Now, why am I standing here in my garage next to a brand new longer Ray5 20-watt engraver, laser engraver, dressed to the nines? I gotta tell you, I had planned on doing this video for a few days now, and everything was ready to go. But then last night and this morning, the temperatures just plummeted. The snow started to fall, and although it hasn't laid, it is extremely cold. So the only way I could do this out in my garage is literally tog right up, and my hands are freezing. So that explains this part of the video. As for the rest of the video, well, let me just say that I've got a brand new laser engraver here. It's from a company called Longer, and the product is a Longer Ray5 20-watt diode laser. Now, on top of the diode laser, there is an enclosure, there is an air assist, and there is a honeycomb bed. Now, all those things are actually extra, but the actual diode laser is an open framed laser. Now, more about that maybe in another video, because really what this video is about is my very first ever creation on a laser engraver. Now, they reached out to me just before Christmas and said, look, we're really impressed with the way you've been doing the new Sandling Junction on your layout. We wondered, would you be interested in taking one of these on, having a play with it, doing some creations, do some projects with it, and do videos on that and put them out there? And I said, well, I would give an honest review to what I want to do or what I would actually say about it, and that's fine, no problems with that. But I said to them what I really would like to do with it, apart from create things for the new Sandling Junction, is to come at it as I am, as a newbie. I have never ever touched one of these before, and with the exception of the last few weeks when I really got my hands to it over Christmas and started playing around with it and putting it all together and starting to learn about everything that's needed to be learned about, I've never touched one, never got near one. And I know if any of you out there are like me, you've been sitting on the fence for a long time wondering, don't I buy one? There's a lot of people out there doing stuff on lasers now. It's just like the old 3D printers, and a lot of that goes on as well. And I think that the question that most of us say, is this an affordable piece of kit that I can put into my arsenal of tools when it comes to being a model maker, and certainly in the model railway fraternity? So yeah, I think what drove me really was the fact that I inherited an awful lot of Metcalfe kits and Hornby resin kits and other things like that for my old layout, No Name Junction. And most of that ended up in one form or another on the old Sandling Junction. And I was set really to start using some of those again on the new Sandling Junction. And it sort of dawned on me that every time I look at a video out there, and this is no disrespect to anybody, please don't take it the wrong way, but you see the same model kits, whoever they're made from, on almost every layout. And you know, one that comes to mind is the Metcalfe station and the church. I mean, you see so many, and there's nothing wrong with that, so please don't take it the wrong way. But what I am saying is, for me personally, and like so many other people, it would be nice to have some individuality to our layouts, and I think that's where this type of thing really comes into its own, because you can create some wonderful pieces of not only usable equipment like storage this and something holder that, but you can actually create buildings, individual gates, fences, anything you can think of really that can be made out of card and plastic can be created with much more degree of finesse and fine detail on a laser engraver. So when Longer reached out to me, it couldn't have come at a better time, because I really was sitting on the fence. Do I or don't I? Can I justify the cost? And that my prayers were answered because they said, would you like to try one? Would you like to take it on us and do some projects? I leapt at it. But it was, I've got to say, one of 3 different types that I had in my shopping basket. I had done an awful lot of research on the different makes that there were. And this one was what sorry about that. Stop. This one, I have to say, had a few extra bells and whistles on it that I really liked. It's got, if you knocked it in when it was working, it stopped, sounds an alarm. If there was a little fire or spark or something that ignited a piece of the material that you're working on, which can happen, by the way, there is a fire alarm. It immediately stops and the air assist just puts it out, and it's safe. And it is really nice from that point of view. Now, what I will say is that when you buy one, you get an open framed laser engraver, which 90% of them are. But I told them when they talked to me that I would never operate it, because in this area here, this is my studio, and I didn't want it full of smells and things that are sort of toxic to in the air, and I didn't want to have problems in that regard. So I said if they would send me an additional air assist, which goes there, which helped prevent burn. If they gave me the enclosure with the extractor on it that I can then plumb out through the window when it's in use, and the honeycomb to prevent scorching underneath because it allows the air to breathe underneath the material you're working on, then yes, I would really be happy to take it on and learn about it and do some projects that I can share with you guys over the next couple of months. So what you're looking at now then, in a long-winded way, and I do apologize about that, is we have the longer Ray5, and it is, as I say, it's a 20-watt diode laser. It has a 410 centimeter square workable bed, but that is somewhat reduced because the 20-watt head is slightly bigger than the 10-watt, and therefore it reduces to about 380 centimeters, 38 centimeters, 380 millimeters. Anyway, that said, it's still a great working area and probably more than enough for 90% of everything you want to do. So what I'm going to do now is, here I have got my very, very first project, and it is a totem. Now, I sadly, or unfortunately, I ordered a totem at the Get show back in October for the new Sandling Junction, and was very, very sadly and very disappointedly let down by the trader. Enough said on that. That got resolved and sorted, but it's left me with absolutely no totem for Sandling Junction. So I recently saw somebody had done a similar thing, and I wanted to reverse engineer and see how it could be made. So that's what I sat down and did, and I used a software called Lightburn, which seems to be the industry standard for everybody who's using laser engravers, is to use a product called Lightburn. And that does come with a 30-day free trial, and I think it's just a one payment to buy it outright, but if you want updates further down the road, I think it's a very small charge to get updates for a year, something like that. But so far, I've enjoyed using it. It's not gone without problems and issues. Now, I'm not talking about the laser, I'm talking about the software. It's a steep learning curve, but I am at the point where I have got this totem here ready to engrave on the longer Ray5 and the 20-watt. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back in time when I was showing you on a screenshot how I created that. Now, if you want to skip that, just jump ahead on the timeline and it will take you to where this is engraving and creating my creation, my design. All right, okay, enough of that. I'm going to catch you all later, and stay to the end when we will put the whole thing together and show you a finished project.
Save.
Okay, so that's gone. So we've now got a clear deck on which to start working. So what I'm going to be doing is that I have this square is the same bed as my laser. Now the longer Ray5 10 and the 20 watt, as to my knowledge, certainly the one I'm using, has got a 410 board across here. Now the thing is that with the 20 watt laser, the module is slightly bigger, so you are restricted to about 380 square. So what I've been doing is I've been making my first designs when I'm using, say, Affinity, to create them on a threshold of 360. That gives me a bit of wiggle room. Now here we've got a total of 410, so I'm going to make mine well within this, and you've got great ways of measuring through here all the way through to here. So as long as it's not way off here, it's not going to cause you a problem. Now down this side are some of the easy tools that we're going to be using a lot of during the course of this short video. So I'm going to go onto the square tool, and I'm going to literally make a square just like that. Now it's highlighted. It means to say that it's created its own layer up here, and it's created a movable situation. If you keep doing this, you're just going to end up with more and more squares, which we don't really want. So we're going to come out of there. We're going to click off of that. Now you got to bear in mind, I am an absolute novice at this too, so I have done very little work on this. But what I'm going to do is I want to around these ends. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my circle tool. So there's my circle. I did that wrong. Let's start that again. Hold your shift key down, and that gives you a perfect circle, just like that. Now don't worry that it's bigger than this square. So first and foremost then, let's just look at the square. So go up here to the move tool, and that allows me to highlight just this square, and I can work out what size I really want this to be. Now this lock will lock in the ratio between these two sizes, but if you want to change that, if you want a different length to a different width, then unlock it, come up here to the width, and put it at the width you really want it to be. Now I'm going to go for 280 millimeters, and that's fine, but I want to have a depth of 40 millimeters like that. So it's automatically changed that. Now, how am I going to get this exactly where I want it to be? Well, that's quite simple too. Let's just highlight on that circle, and all I need to do now is if I lock that again and change this one to 40, it will change the complete circle to the same depth as the top and the bottom of this square. Now, if I just move that center to there, I have that centrally set on the end of my square. Now what I need to do is to go here and copy this circle. Let's just get that back up on there. It's remembering every time to do these different things. Copy, so we're going to copy it, and we're going to put it down this end, and we're going to paste it. There we are. We have literally done the same thing again. Just move it into place, and we're good to go. So now we have the two ends and the primary shape of our new totem. What I want to do here is I'm going to highlight this one, and I'm going to hold my command key. Bear with me, I work on a Mac, so I'm not familiar with all the different keys that there are to be had with a Microsoft type computer, or the opposition ones. Anyway, okay, so let's go now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to join all of these together. I'm going to go like that. Now we have our pretty much our totem sorted out, don't we? We have all that nicely set up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a square. Now I'm going to take another, I'm going to highlight the square, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to create a square. Now two things will be quite obvious, is that that square is not in the right position, and it's got square ends, and we don't want square ends. So we're going to change all of that in a moment. But let's just move this around to start with. Go back up here, move this roughly in position, somewhere like that. Do we want a little more at the top? We want it about even. Now what height have I got here? Well, I've got a height of 75. I might bring that down to 70, I think. Let's just bring that down a little bit. There we go. And that's brought down that as well, because don't forget the aspect ratio is locked. So whatever change here correspondingly changes there. And you know how to change them individually by unlocking that if you wish to do so. But I'm going to live with that for the moment. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to highlight the whole lot. So by clicking and dragging your cursor around the whole area you want to cover, up here you've got some central tools. Now if I hit one, it will align everything in that way. If I hit this one, it will align everything in that way. So now everything is central, 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 and central. Nicely done. You haven't got to work it out yourself. It's all in the software. Now then, let's just change some of these. So that tool, we're going to come down here to this radius tool. And from my previous one, I decided that 20 points or whatever it works out to works very, very nicely. I'm going to curve it there. I'm going to curve it here. I'm going to do the same on this one. And I'm going to do the same on this one. Now I have got all those curves in place. I'm really happy with that. There we are. So now we have the basis of our lovely totem that we're making. So right, where do we go from here then? So next thing is, I don't want this to be as it is or cut just as it is. So what I want to do now is I want to bring in my text. So my text here, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit here. Go the other way. There we go. Make it slightly larger. Now the way to click and hold this like this is to hold your space bar down. Or if you've got a wheel slide or one thing like double wheel or a touchpad, which I've got, you can run it this way and this way, but you can't drag it just by using your mouse wheel. You have to hold the space bar down, and then you will pick up the whole thing and move it around like so. But I think that's big enough for us to work with at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is going to hit the A, and I'm going to put that mark in there, and I'm going to put in Sandling Junction. Okay, not miss one off. There we go, Sandling Junction. Now obviously it's not big enough at all. Now you've got several ways you can change any of that up in here if you wish to, or quite simply go to the move tool there, pick it up and drag it out to the size you really want it. And we're going to drag it along a little bit. That's too long maybe. Let's just change that a little bit. Not that way. Let's come out that way. That's where I want to go. Something like that. And let's just bring it in a little bit. Okay, now I can do the same thing with this as I did with these. So if I just highlight that there, and if I go up, in fact, if I go up to the whole lot, it needs the whole lot to be showing. Now I can look at that and I can do the H, and it's now set everything that way. If I go to the Y, or the V, sorry, and it shifts it that way. Now my words are central in every direction, both on the up and down and the side to side. So now we have our Sandling Junction in place. What I might do, I might just make that, it's in Arial. I could change that, but I'm making it bolder so that it stands out a little bit more, quite like that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do 2 more sets of letters. So the first one, if I go back to here, and let's just put a cursor down and the word new. Now we all know it's new Sandling Junction. So what we're going to do now is go up to the move tool, highlight that, bring it right the way down and shift it by grabbing the center mark there, and we're going to put that right in the middle. So we've got new Sandling Junction. Now traditionally on all of these totems, certainly with regard to Sandling Junction, the word was also sandling for Hive. There we go. Now that has always been in my totem, and it was on all of the original totems for all the eras, all the way through, I guess, until the lines were all taken up and it was no longer needed. But let's just put the move tool on there. Let's just take this up here and put that in place. And I think that's automatically come out at the right size from this one. Now what we can do here, we can highlight everything on there. I think I can do this. Forgive me if I've got this wrong. And I can quite simply, I hope, do the Y. Yes, it has done it. And do I need to do that? It may alter them all into the middle. No, that's what I thought it would do. Okay, so I'm just using the V axis to change and make sure everything is nice and central in these spaces. So we're almost done with the design, but we are missing out the borders. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this one and we're going to come down to a tool here like a double O in size. So what I'm going to do there is I've got it set to 5mm and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to leave that on there. So now we have a border created. I'm going to do the same on this one and I'm going to come to here. I'm going to go to the double O. It's set to 5 and there we are. So now we have everything we want. But look what's happened here. Our words have changed. So we're going to have to alter those. We're going to bring them down to a slightly smaller size, move that around a little bit so it sits nicely between these two sets of parallels, and I'm going to do very much the same on this one. And I'm going to bring it down ever so slightly, move it up like that. That's fine. Now with those two set up, that one to me is a little bit below that line. So what I want to do is I'm just going to make it slightly smaller. I could make this deeper, but I don't really want to do that. I'd rather make the letters just a bit tinier. At the end of the day, they don't have to be super big. They're just needing to really be seen there. So let's just come up, move that up slightly so it's not that close to this line. Now, if you're not too sure, come back up, come in a little bit. And I think there's a nice enough gap. We can just move it up ever so slightly. Now you can use it with your arrow key, you can use it with your directional keys on your keyboard. I think this one is fine, but what I will just do is I will go back in just to make sure, and I will go on that V axis again and make sure they're central, and they are. So that's now done. Okay, so we don't want all of this looking like this. We need the outcome to look pretty much like this. But what we have to do is we have to start layering up this job. Now, I need to dissect some lines and I need to create other lines, and I need to create cut and engraving layers. Now, all of that is over on this side. Now, this side here is a black line and it's set to line, which means to say it will cut. It will cut on that speed and it will cut on that power if I leave it on those, and that will cut out everything here, including dissecting all of this and messing everything up. So what I've got to do is I've got to highlight certain things like the letters, and I'm going to come down here to this range of colors. Now it doesn't matter which one you pick, but I'm just going to go in with the blue, and you can see what's happened is it's created that lettering all on its own layer. Now that I've got as a fill layer, that is an engraved layer, because there it's set. Now this is actually set from my last job. Not a problem, because they are the sizes that I actually want to use. So let's come up here and I want to move this one above this one, and I'll tell you for why in a moment, but let's just carry on for the moment anyway. Now I want to do is take this one and I want to give that the same blue. Now that will automatically put it into this layer. And if I do the same for this letter, no, there we go, like that. Now all of those three sets of letters will engrave, and that's what I want them to do. But there's a lot more I need to do, and I've just got to try and remember exactly how I did all of this. So first things first then, I think I want to make a whole copy of this. I'm going to take that down there, and I'm going to literally go copy and move my cursor down and paste it there. And I have a second copy identical to the first below this one. That's very, very nice. Done. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to change these layers back in a short while. But first and foremost, let's just see what I need to do here. I have got this inner line, which I don't really want, because what I want to do is I want to create a template like all the way around the outside, not the inside stuff. I'm not worried about that. I just want this top one to be cut out around here, but engraving the letters. And the idea is that the letters here will be cut out of the wood and then stuck on exactly where the engraving is. So it's going to be a very light engraving, but at the end of the day, I know exactly where these should sit. Okay, I think I've realized what I've got to do. So I'm going to take the inside out of this one and the inside out of this one. Blind leading the blind, guys. I'm so sorry. All right, now what I'm going to do is highlight this one and this one, and it will then come down to merging two pieces, which is this one here. Merge the two. There we are. Now we're cooking. So we have got this structure set up in the way that this will cut out as a cut line on this line here, on this layer called the border. And then all of this inside here will quite simply be engraved quite lightly. I don't want it too heavy. Okay, so this next section, what I want to do is set up for these letters to be cut out, and literally when I pick up the piece of wood around them, that these should all, being well, just literally fall out of the cuts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all of them and I'm going to change their layer color. So this one as well. Sorry, let's do them one at a time. One. We get there. Come on. This one, please. This one. There. Nearly. Get back up here. There we are. Okay. Change that to black. And this one. We get this one going as well. Change that one to black. Now they have been altered to this layer here. So they are now cut. These are fill. These will engrave, the blue ones. But these ones will be cut. Now you'll notice that this one I'm actually changing the color altogether, and I'm going to give it a red layer like that, and you can see it's introduced a new layer there. Now I've kept it exactly the same as the cut layer there. They're both lined, they will both cut, and they are both set to the same strength. Now the reason that I've done that is there is a hierarchy. When you are cutting and engraving any job, you should do all your engraving first. That's the first thing that should happen. Secondly, you should cut from the inside out. Now the thing is, especially if you've got an air assist on, like I have on my longer, is the fact that air or even any movement, if this is cut last, this cut line first, then these could move, or this could move in here and it will mess up this cut. So what you tend to do, or ideally you should do, is you should make sure that anything on the inside is cut before the outside. So that's why I've set this one on another layer. So all I need to do is go to here and move that up ahead of this one. So now the engraving will go first, that lettering here will go second, and all the other stuff will cut last. So my last real job to do now is to get this area here organized, and what I've got to try and figure out how to do, and I found a way, I think, of eliminating that if I've got this right. Now there's one, and I'm going to go onto the outer one there, and I'm going to, I think it's this one, bring them all together, and that has got rid of those center lines, and now I have got one single piece here and the words here. Now these are now inside these areas. So it didn't matter before, but it really does now. So what I'm going to do with these is put these onto the same red layer like that. So now these will all cut before any of this black will cut. So that's what I've got there. I've now got a situation where this is the base. This will be cut and engraved, and these will be cut, and they will hopefully drop out to be glued on to this surface. Had all this set up. Now we are at the engraver, and you may well hear the air assist and the extraction fan already functioning, although the laser itself is not switched on at the moment. What I want to do, this is representative of the area of the potential area that I can engrave on with the longer Ray5 20 watt. So I don't want it all to start up here, because down here you'll see a V and an X cursor with a little green dot there. Now that is, in the way I have this set up right now, that is the home position of my laser diode, and that's where the project will start working from. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here, highlight the whole thing. Hopefully I've got that all and nothing is left. And then I'm going to move the whole project down, 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 near the bottom. So I'm going to not waste too much wood in that regard. I'm just going to move it slightly over. There we are. And down a bit more. Now there's plenty of room around the whole of this area to actually make this work. But I think that makes sense to get it down there and out the way. Alright, so that is now ready to work. Let's just double check on the TV screen up here, and we have everything as it should be. It's a 43-minute burn, and let's just play that through quickly. You can see how it's going to work, not forgetting that I did say up here we have the laser first, which I've changed to a open cut as opposed to a filled section. Otherwise it will be a little longer in terms of the cutting. In fact, what I might just do, let's stop that now, and you don't have to endure the whole of the engraving for sure. I will make it a fill, and let's change that now, and let's go back to the preview on that screen. Now you see the whole of this is now solid color, and you'll see that the time has gone up to just short of an hour, with a possibility of a few extra minutes either side, because these timings are only a fairly good but rough estimate. Excuse that contradiction, but it's really what it is. It does sometimes go over. So let's just play this quickly. Now you get to see how the time is spent in the engraving, and slow it builds. I'm not going to run you through all of it, it's just enough to do there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and turn the laser on, and there is a window here that you can see. Now probably the bright light will be blowing it out, you won't see too much, but basically what you've got here is a touch screen when you're using the engraver, and what you have is here is a USB B, which is the old printer port, and I've attached that with my USB-C, so it sort of piggybacks on the side of that. And then I'm just going to turn it on, you hear it ding, and now we have the screen up and we have all the controls there if we should need them, but we're operating this through the computer. So what I'm going to be doing now is just going to check that my computer is recognized and seen, and it is. Now you should see the it will return to its home position. You see it coming down. All right, now that's set to its home position. What I'm going to do now is I've got my piece of board in there. Now this piece of board is a 3mm thick MDF board. Now I wanted to use MDF as opposed to ply because there's no grain in MDF, so you get a lovely smooth surface. With this particular totem, if it's done on ply, then paint will show up the grain, and I really didn't want that. I wanted something as smooth as I can, so I wanted to spray the outcome, seal it off, glue it together, and then paint the final colors to it and have a very smooth, if not sprayed smooth, surface, which is easily done. You can use a spray booth, spray these components and have a very smooth surface if you want to, or simply use a brush. But what I wanted to do is use a Medite MDF. Now Medite MDF is one that you can safely use on an engraver or a laser engraver, because it's not made with much or if any formaldehyde. And there are certain awful substances when traditional MDF is created. That's why you're always told never cut it in an enclosed surface, an enclosed area, but always take it outside with good ventilation. Well, when you're burning into it, it's even worse. So the best method is to stay safe and look around, which there are loads of places I've found out, and I will list a few ideas for you in the Show More tab under this video. But you will be able to see where you can buy safer materials such as Medite MDF, and this is what I've got. It's easily recognized as well because it is quite a pale color, much different to the cheaper forms, which tend to be quite dark. All right, now I'm just going to do something else now. Before I commit to this being engraved, I am going to run one more thing. On here, you've got a thing called frame. Now you've got a circle frame and you have got a square frame. I'm going to just run the square frame and it will take me around where the job is, making sure that the whole of my area, the laser is engraving upon it. Now I notice that it's a little bit that way, so what I'm going to simply do, and I'm sorry if I got my back to you, but I just want to move that down a shade, run that again. I'm going to run that over and frame it one more time. I'm going to watch it, see where it stops, up there, across, plenty of room top and bottom. And I'm going to do one more thing. You can't look at the laser. It's not necessarily it's going to blind you at first sight. Of course it's not. Constant looking at it, it will do an awful lot of damage to your eyes. It's a little bit like having sunburn on the eyes. It's a little bit like feeling very gritty, and too much of it, it really will destroy your sight. So Longer, as most other companies would do, will give you or supply you with safety goggles. Now these happen to be green ones. There are others out there, orange and other colors I believe, but they are all very, very good eye protection. What I've learned is that I don't really want to look at this during the course of its engraving anyway. It's a great machine and it's got lots of safety features, so that really helps. But I am not going to be too far from it either. I'm only going to be over there where I normally sit and paint. I'm going to sketch and do something while this is engraving. And at the end of it, if it stops without any warnings or any other problems, then I know the engraving is complete. So what I want to do though is I want to show you some of the film of some of this happening. But I'm just closing up the enclosure and you'll see why that you won't get a great view, because it is a plastic like so, and it's designed to keep 90% of all the fumes out of your room, and now it's being sucked outside through the nearby open window. Yes, there's going to be a little escape here and there, it can't be helped, but to the greater degree most of it goes out. And I have been doing a lot of testing and a lot of engraving, and I actually haven't had too much residual smell in the room, and it's large enough for him to dissipate most of that anyway. And so my next step then will be to literally kick start and off it goes. Now I'm putting my glasses on, fashion statement, and it is engraving. Now this engraving is going to be a 1 hour long engraving, so I hope that I'm going to come back at the end of this and have something successful to show you. So what, I can take my glasses off now for a minute. I'm not going to look at that, so don't worry. But how do I determine what I wanted to use as the coordinates in terms of speed and power in using this laser engraver? Now, there are lots out there on the market, it has to be said, and many of them are extremely good. I've only had experience of this particular one, and I would thoroughly recommend it, I've got to say. But Well, certainly at the moment anyway, and there's no reason why that should change. But the thing is, there are lots of learning things with it, and I spent a long time in the last few days creating these wonderful squares of different materials. Now, the thing about them are that each material will burn through and engrave through at different rates, different speeds. So you have to find out, and within the Lightburn software, you can either build your own test, which I've now done for the future, has to be said, I haven't tried it yet, and I hope it'll work. But they also have prerequisites that you can change some of the parameters. You can change the speed, top and bottom, minimum, maximum, and also the power, minimum, maximum, and the amount of squares you put in to your chosen grid. But I started out and I started burning normal MDF, and it shows you through different powers. I don't know if that will pick up, but different powers. This is on one pass, and it shows you that these ones are more than adequate. They cut and they fall out straight away. So the certain power that you use, the speed and the power and the way that it shows, and it will show you that you can actually do this in a certain, let's for instance say 89 speed with, let's say, no, sorry, 89% power with 110 millimeters per minute. That's not a lot, it's quite slow. So you may want to think, well, okay, it's taken a long time to cut that. So let's go and do 2 passes, and you can get through with maybe a faster and more holes. So I've done that with every material. I've just told you that, let's put these down for a minute. I just told you how I've been using this material. This is the 3mm Medite MDF, and I did some tests on it yesterday, and that one there is the burn with the engraving. So I set up certain speeds down here and certain power ratios through here, and you can see the degree and feel the depth of each burn. So as it engraves, it's obviously removing stuff from the surface, and as you do that, you have to take that into account when you're designing what you want, how you want it to look, and the engraving depth that you want to achieve. Now, it comes to cutting, and put that out of the way for a minute. Here I did one with a single pass on it, and you can see that it's quite thick timber, and MDF is notorious to be a little harder to cut through. So it needed quite a powerful and slow margin to get that to drop out on the first go, but it's doable. And in fact, what I chose to do, because a single pass is a cleaner cut, and a single pass on here will take something like 100 to 120 in terms of millimeters per minute, but set at 100 or somewhere between 92 and 100. So I set it 100 to 100 on a single pass, and I think that will be more than adequate to cut the entire totem out in one piece without any problems. It may have a little bit of scorching, I hope not, but time will tell. Here is the same piece of wood with 2 passes on it, same setup pretty much, but you can see here that I've changed, well, I did change something. Did I change something? No, I didn't. I kept everything the same. I just wanted to see how many more of these squares would fall out without being pushed too much. Some of them you do. Up around, these ones here all need a little bit of help out, and you can see on the back when some of them are not quite pushing all the way through. They're not quite cutting all the way, but many of them do, and they will fall out. So I'm using this material, and from talking to friends who also use laser engravers, they like 2 and 3mm MDF. It's nice and easy to work with, and you can buy it in the Medite form, which is safe. So that's what I'm using, and that is why some of this learning curve is to do with testing materials before you get really underway and creating your marvelous creations for the future. So I'm going to let this go on now, and I'm going to come back when it's done its job. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have a viable project that I can share with you and move on and complete it to the painting and have a finished totem. Catch you all soon. Hi guys, and welcome back. Well, now we're going to put this whole thing together. We're going to paint it up, glue the letters in place, and finish this lovely project that we started on the longer Ray5. Now, the thing is that you saw me burn this one on the machine, and there's nothing wrong with this as a whole, with the exception of two little things. One, I used the wrong font. I didn't realize when I set this up that the font was an incorrect font for the time, and what that did also is the letters that I used through here and here were so tiny that, you know, handle them too heavily and they just don't put up with it. They start to squash and squish and all sorts of things. So I went back to the drawing board very quickly, and I didn't want to refilm everything because that part you've seen done. So I'm going to put that one out of the way and show you the Mark II version. Now the Mark II version is virtually exactly the same, with the exception that there is a larger set of type through here, which you can see on there, and the font is the correct Gill Sans or Jill Sans, whichever way you pronounce that. So that is the one that I'm going to go with. And what I'm going to do is clean up all of this, make sure it's all nice and set up properly. Just make sure all the letters are nicely clean and not going to cause a mess. And then I'm going to seal these all with some Liquitex matte medium and varnish. Now this is a great sealer. The glue I'm going to be using is some sticky glue, some of the tacky glue, which is Aleene's tacky glue from America. Just going to pour a little bit out into here, not too much. And I want to apply it not with this because it just delivers too much and it'll squidge all over the place. So I'm just going to put some of this glue on here. It is very thick, very gloopy. Put that down, and I'm going to apply the letters with this glue. Now I could have probably used a super glue or a number of different glues, but Hi everybody and welcome back. Well, there you go, one brand new totem for the new Sandling Junction, and I've got to say that I really am so pleased with the outcome. You've got to understand that this is my very first ever design in light burn and burn on a longer Ray5 20-watt laser engraver. Now, until a few weeks ago, I'd never seen a laser engraver in the flesh, and I'd never even opened the software in which you design some of this stuff in. And for me, and most of you know that when it comes to technical things outside of art, painting and weathering, I'm left a little bit challenged and wanting. And if I can pick up a laser, pick up the software and learn it enough to create something like this in such a short space of time, then I know each and every one of you can do the same as well, because I am certainly not a technical person. But the understanding of the laser itself, the longer Ray5, is so simple. It is really tuned in for the beginner, the hobbyist. It's not so expensive that it's out of you or out of people's reaches, and there are some out there that really are. And it's not so cheap either that you would walk by it thinking that it's not really up to much. But it is a 20-watt laser. It burns better than a 10 or a 5. And I went for the 20 when they asked me, because I knew that I'd want to not only engrave, but I'd also want to cut with it. And I want to cut efficiently. So the 20-watt for me was the answer. But alongside that, I also would suggest that if you do get a laser engraver, one of the open ones, get the enclosures, get the air assist that you can buy with it, and also the honeycomb. Longer do all of these things. They do a lovely canopy that goes over with a beautiful fan and a long hose that goes out through the window. The air assist unit is really strong, very powerful, and it extracts all the air out, and the air assist at the point of the diode laser is really efficient, and the honeycomb stops any burn underneath. So I really would, if you're thinking about getting one, I would get those extra parts as well. It's for your safety and for a better outcome with the laser cuts and engravings that you do in the future. Now, with all that plugging done and said and what have you, would I get one? Well, the answer in short is absolutely yes. I was almost going to be buying one before Longer reached out to me and said, would I like to play around with their laser? And you know, they didn't know that I was actually looking around to get one, but I've been sitting on the fence for so long, and I've said this already, but now I've done it. Now I've learned the fundamentals enough to make something like this. For me, it is a no-brainer to get one, because I think that the model world is going towards more and more individuality. I think that if you are able to purchase something like this and add it to your tools, as it were, and enjoy and learn and do with it, then I think that the sky's the limit. Because yeah, my brain is going 10 to the dozen on what I might engrave next, not just for Sandling Junction, but also for my gallery in Hythe. I've got ideas coming out of the everywhere of what I might create product wise for my artistic work in my gallery. So that's just something completely different that I hadn't even envisaged when I said yes to Longer, and that laser was sent to me. But for this anyway, the painting on it is a little bit crude, it's a little bit crusty. It's not as slick as it might be, but that's got nothing to do with the laser cut. It's purely to do with 2 coats of acrylics onto the surface of the wood. So maybe in summertime, when it's a lot warmer, I will probably cut another one and airbrush it or spray it outside when I know it can dry well, and it may come up with a much smoother, much finer finish. But I'm really chuffed with it, I really am. And yeah, I can't say enough. So I am going to leave you with the thoughts that if you're sitting on the fence and thinking, should you get a laser engraver, should you get a longer Ray5 20 watt, and I would say the 20 watt, and all the other bits and pieces, I'll leave links down in the show more tab for where you can get it, where you can learn more, what it's going to cost you. All these different things will be answered, and any benefits that I can derive from that for you if you want to get one as well. But I wouldn't hesitate. If you're sitting on the fence and thinking about it like I was, then take the plunge. You won't regret it. Anyway, enough of that for now. I'm going to get on and think about the next project that I'm going to be cutting on the longer, and on the engraver, and also a little update on what's going on with the track work on the new Sandling Junction build. So see you all in the next video. Take care, stay safe, have fun wherever you are, enjoy your modeling. See you next time. Bye bye. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. That really does help the channel grow. Take care everybody. Bye bye.